rest of your night, everyone. I'm assuming I'll be doing a live cast after this, and I would love to see you there. Thank you very much.
feeling that house music be. Feel it properly. People of the world, do it properly. Wherever you are, you're a superstar. House music is the thing that brings us together as one. So together, we're gonna do this thing properly. Let's have some fun. Party people, jump, 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 jump. Do it properly. Let's have some fun. Do it. Do it properly. If you're feeling the beat over there, do it. Put your hands up in the air. Do it properly.
Check this out.
There's so many ways to do it. So many ways to see.
All right.
But the only way to do it is to do it properly. Do
To every man, woman, boy, and girl, you came out here to have some fun, but let's do it in unity, and let's do it as one. House music is a universal feeling that we all have deep down in our soul, and it's time to release it. It's time to lose total control. And the only way to do it is to do it properly.
If house is a nation, I wanna be president. 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 I wanna be it's house. It's
one of my favorite of all the dancing mix songs he's come out with. It just kind of drones on. He did one of these one of the versions of the song where he kind of narrated something, and I'm like, while we were out there dancing, I was like, Aaron, you need to do that to more of these droning on and on songs. Anyway, there's another 8 minutes. There's another 8 minutes in this. So get your popcorn, get your cigarettes. I'm having a smoke break right now. So we'll be getting ready to roll shortly, soonly. Thank you all for being here, all the wonderful people. And I have up the chat from last. This is the last chat that we had. So that's a reminder of what we have on the board so that we don't forget. So I will see you on the other side of the mix. Thank you all for being here.
Bye.
Hello, I'm back. I'm here. Nice to see you. All right, I'm going to use two mics here, just in case. Excuse me. All right, so that way if I'm facing this way or that way, there's something there to catch my voice. All right, so, so this has been a very lively discussion. There's 5 of you here now, thank you. Six of us. Can't exclude me from this. All right, so we have I like this format, and I give this as a reason why, what we're doing here is a reason why I like doing the premiere and then having a live stream right after it, so that we can address a lot of the questions that are very involved, that, like, I can't run through, yay, good for being sidetracked, good for dealing with and addressing a lot of issues and questions, yay, not so good that time is linear. We have a limited amount of space and time, and then it runs off, and then, all right, so we got to find another place to hang out for a little bit, and that's what we're doing here. So, so I like the idea of having questions lined up, and before we get into the material, you see I was kind of laying it out there, clever me, giving you a preview of what, hey, you don't like it, all right, well, there you go, there's the door. Hey, Ricky. I'm echoing. Okay. I will fix that. We don't want to echo. Yeah, all right, good. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that, because I don't like that. It's annoying. Thank you. We don't need to echo. Miss Colorado, thank you. Thank you for visiting here. All right. So we're back on track. Okay. Okay. So where we are with this is we're talking about the dimensions. We are talking about our general lesson for today is we're talking about the dimensions. But before we do, we have some questions that are on the blackboard, and that's what is here. Oh, good. I lost my mind when I was a teenager. I almost had to go in the loony bin because of this stuff. You couldn't hold. That's what it's for. That's why they gave it to me, to start unraveling the fabric of your head, and only the people that are ready for it are ready for it. And I'm telling you the God's honest truth that I wasn't of myself going to be presenting this until much later, until I knew there was people that are ready for it. But my guides are like, yep, you got that magic question, someone's asked, there's people. And so it's whenever the equation in general is that if there's one person who asks, who actually writes in, that's worth maybe 50 people, okay? Or maybe 100, I don't know. But, if one person asks it, there's at least a dozen people that are wondering, that aren't, but are lost. And so there you go. So at least if this here video is here, it's like, all right, you can have it there to show people, and that we have a big, big lively discussion on this. And it's important for, y'all to understand these concepts, because they're what are going to be popping up going forward. And as societal stuff starts giving way, and things that are here, the machinery breaks down that's kept it going all this time breaks down, and people are looking for answers, and the answer makers are gone, we need to know more stuff, more things to fill in what's broken. Hopefully that makes sense to you. That as what's here and what we've accepted for a long time breaks down, and we're looking for more and more explanations for what's happening, and the old explanations aren't working anymore, and people are seeing shit and going crazy, well, I'm doing fine. I know what's happening. I look forward to people hearing. To me, I'm going to tell you this honestly. The 4 or 5 of you that are here, how many are still here? Oh, 10. Oh, the 10. My good 10. My solid 10 are here. Good. My disciples. My core of 10. So I'm going to tell you this: that when I see all the wacky, weird shit happening, it makes me feel safe and secure, I think. I'm pretty sure I'm not getting swept up in a lot of this. Maybe safe and secure isn't the right word. What am I looking for? It gives me a sense of relief, maybe, that the time is finally here, right? That the eggs are being broken. Oh, Bradley. Hi, Bradley. Oh, it's nice to see you here. So as I see things are breaking down, it gives me a sense of relief, I guess. Not joy, because a lot of stuff is people are, like people lose their lives, and, there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens. Like, all right, it's like that's part of it. But generally speaking, it's that time that it's what I refer to as the wrap-up of the wrap-up. What does that mean? The wrap-up of the wrap-up means it's the accounting time. It's the harvest time. Okay. So, in this, there's 2 parts to this. Two sides to the coin. There's the part of this that first we have to clean up all the garbage. The harvest. Right? The separation of the wheat from the chaff. Okay. The work is many, but the workers are few. The work is hard, and the workers are few. I've dealt with this, or I've mentioned about this issue before. All right. About hell on earth. I'll talk about that, I think, another time. There's a lot of different ways to look at this. You can look at this as an experiment. Okay. You can look at this as a playground. It's a theater. It's a world of illusion. Okay. There are a lot of different ways about this planet, this realm, that you can look at that are not just Earth is hell. All right. I'm going to say this. My perspective on this is that it's not hell so much as it's an active war zone. Okay? I can't disagree that does not make it for hellish conditions here. Okay? We talked about reincarnation. And there is a recycling of the souls of the people who haven't learned some basic lessons. I mean, I'm going to put it no other way. There's not another way to put it. That the people who are still left here are the losers, the failures. They've failed multiple lifetime after lifetime. Right? There are the people who have decided to come back, right? But a lot of people, I shouldn't say that they've, by this point, right here, right now, all right? I'm not talking about 20 years ago, all right? Can I put it that way? All right, if this was 20 years ago, it would be different. But right now, there are, the majority of people that are left are failures. They've just failed in multiple lifetimes, and they haven't learned some basic lessons. And then there are the people who have volunteered to come back, who have been here multiple lifetimes, who've volunteered to come back to help those people, all right? Then there are other members of society who have... Okay, but before that, at this point, with the wrap-up of the wrap-up, as I use this expression, okay,
one of the things that we're looking at is the clearing out of karma, karmic debt, karma, in general. Karma as a principle is ending, okay, because it's the wrap-up. All right, so a lot of people are remembering past lives. They're being born with past lives. That's not part of the free will veil of forgetting. That's people knowing that they're consciously coming back, knowing that they're coming back to help. Okay. So I can only answer for myself. All right. So you asked this out at just in general. Do you believe that we choose to be here? All right. So I am going to offer you that Earth is by choice only. All right. And if you do a good job and you do your job and you treat others well, you can pass in one lifetime, right? I absolutely believe that you can, all right? However, the condition of society imposes a lot of artificial boundaries, restraints, and switches and switchbacks. So you can do well in society and be a success in society, but be completely empty inside. You've done well, everyone looks at you, you're a success. Meanwhile, you are an empty motherfucker inside. Okay, there's not another better way to put it. All right, so people have followed either the path of the earth, the world, which Satan seems to be running the world, or you have your spiritual mission that you go on, which is different from what your family says. The wave. I talk about the wave of probability that we know that energy, that matter is energy condensed. We know that matters, everything is energy. But what you're not seeing is that the difference between the particle and the wave is the difference between possibility and potential. Okay? The what the hell do you call it? The uncertainty principle is, like either you can measure it and not know I'm trying to remember how it goes. You can know the location, but not the direction, or you can know the direction but not the location. When they're doing the measuring of these things, where they put it in their graph, right? Like that's what they're talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Like the Cartesian grid, they try and graph it that you can know one vector and not the other. Okay, that's the simplest way to put it. So, because you have a time and a space vector, they try and nail it down to a time and a space to plot it on the Cartesian grid, all right? And so you're left with the uncertainty principle. So that's part of what is at work here and in action here. All right, I'm going to read the comments here. Okay, all right, so the timeline is the wave potential. The 93% probability it's going to keep going in that motion. That is matter. That is space based on matter. Okay? That is the world as you know it as a physical construct, that there is the first principle here, what we're doing, the first number, is that 93% is our target probability that wave is going to stay intact. That is everyone you know, that's in not only on the quantum level, that's everyone you know, everyone that you've ever known, their predictability if you will, of how they're going to be, so much that we know people. 93% enough is well enough, a lot of times. So you have the possibility that you can do different. The possibility, there's you as the possibility, you as a particle, right? Where you can possibly, there's 7% that you could make a different choice, okay? And some people take that's, it's not much, but they have hope and they have belief and they act on that small percent of possibility that things can be different, right? That's where, but that is invisible. It's it's faith. That is faith. But it's infinite. It's infinite. You sometimes only need that little small bit of chance to be there in front of you, that something just, you just happen to be there at the right time at the right place, okay? All right, so let me address this thing about time, that, all right, this is, and keep in mind, this is what my guides have given me, all right, that time is a dimension, okay? It's the first dimension, and what is the very first of that, what you have is the heartbeat. You have a cycle. If you don't have any matter, if you don't have any density, like this is what we're talking about. If you have no density, a repeating pattern, right? Repeating pattern. Density is the 93% probability. We have waves, repeating patterns. So density and gravity is made up of the probability it will return, it will repeat. It's predictable. 93% of the time, predictable. Okay. We operate on that as our accepted reality of 100% of the time. Right? We factor out the 7%, doesn't matter. It's, materially, it's statistically immaterial. All right. So, we have the imaginary. All right. You have two hemispheres. All right. You got to look at it this way. There's two hemispheres that never talk to each other, or they may talk to each other, or they do talk to each other, or they love each other. Okay? That's humanity. That's the best way to put it. Right? Humans are two minds. Of two minds. Right? That's why humans are all the fuck over the place, because you're either in the head, invisible, formless, abstract, the logical side. Right? That's what that is. Logic can exist completely in your head. It doesn't need to ever... Logic exists. It's a sense of the head. It's the head's, the mind, the brain's sense. Sensory organ is... It makes sense. Well, it makes sense to me. What does that mean? What sense is that? Does it smell good? Does it taste good? None of them. The common sense, the making sense of logic is invisible. Right? Common sense does not exist. It's a word. It's a figment of your imagination. Logic exists in every head, in some part, in some form. Logic needs to be grounded somewhere. Like the amplitude spikes, right? The head, the thinking, the purely thought-driven, without it ever touching ground anywhere at all, at any place ever. That is one half of the brain. It can exist completely in a jar, on a shelf somewhere, without ever touching or feeling anything. It's completely in its own head. That's half of the jar, but that is able to, that lack of a visceral feeling is able to touch God, right? Half of your brain is able to experience God, right? That's the invisible. The other half of it, so the other half of it, the other half of your head is the one that's able to contemplate sacred geometry because it's within the cellular formation, the cell itself, the nexus, the double helix, and all of that. So experiments and things can run in people's heads and they can be successful in your head, but then when you put it out into the physical world, there's things missing. It doesn't make sense. You're not taking something into consideration, and a lot of the times, what you're not taking into consideration is the feelings of other people, or the emotions, emotional impact, the thumbs up or the thumbs down of people, of whether or not they resonate with what you're saying. Right? And so it's been asked me earlier, how do you know what's true and what's not? Well, you take it or leave it. Right? Does it resonate with you? Are you checking it against your real world experience? Right? When people say something far out and fantastic, well, are you backing it up with some far out fantastic claim? Right? With some proof? I don't know. Does it matter to you? I don't know. Right? What do we believe? What do you believe? It's a lot of this is the power of belief itself. Right? Believe what you want. Right? But if you believe it, you'll levitate. You kind of will magically levitate. Like it just, like it's sort of how it works. But you got to believe it and put your, sort of thing in it. There's a part of science that is belief, right? I mean, I'm not pro-religion, pro-science. I treat them all as a part of the whole. But they've all been corrupted. There is not one aspect, one avenue of human interchange at this point that hasn't been corrupted by the human agenda of greed and a lot of other things, which I don't know if it is actually a human agenda, if it is lack of feeling. I think the bottom line in all of this, I could just kind of end it this way, say that it's not one or the other. It's not the purely logical that's disconnected from feeling, and it's not the body felt, chorebantic, ecstatic experience of dance and the dance of Shiva saving the world. Right? It's just that visceral. That's part of what that is. The Corey Bants, the Bacchanaliates, right? There is a tradition of dance which is 100% density, right? It's your body, it's your physical movement casting forth the emotional expression that you have. Nothing mental about it at all. You don't think. When you dance, you are the dance. You are the dance, all right? So these two poles, which if none of the other animals are as conflicted as humans are because they have one mind. The monkey has one mind of the monkey. It has both hemispheres of the monkey, right? Well, what they did to humans is they took one hemisphere of the monkey out, one hemisphere of the lizard out, they put them together, so then you got some crazy hybrid. And so that's part of the reasons why humans have been on or in a isolation state, a quarantine state for as long as we have been, you have been, because it's been necessary to allow humans to grow as this, congealed being. But humans get caught up in all kinds of stuff, and a lot of it is, oh, good golly, window dressing, I think. I don't even know. But it's, it's difficult to get past stuff that's like the ego is that last step. The crown is the ego. You got to drop the ego, otherwise you're not, and by drop it, I mean, you can't kill it. It's a natural instinct, but you got to just drop it from being the first most important thing. But it's one of those lenses that you have to work through, that you got to get through, So, oh, Daniel the Ferryman, yeah. All right. So, all right. So let me take a break right here. I need to make some coffee, and so I'm going to play some music for like 5 or 6 minutes or whatever. So, if you got, if you want to take a coffee or take a break, like, all right, now's a great time. So let me just, like I like putting the music in there and kind of interspersing the heavy stuff with some music, and that's why I'm liberal about the music, because it's like there's so much heavy stuff that we talk about over here, and not only heavy personally, but also like like on a number of levels personal. All right, so it's a cheery beat. I don't believe you're ready for this, but I have no choice. And so, whether you're ready for this or not, we got to do this. And it's time to talk about the dimensions, or I don't know, whatever else we were talking about there. All right. So, coffee's good, thank you. And hold on. Oh, there we go. All right, I can see you again. I can see me again. All right. Oh my, a self-driving Audi. Well, at least you don't have to tip the driver. Top off the fluids, but not tip off the driver. Anyway. A smart broom, yeah. For the smartest of the witches. Oh! All right, so yeah, it's your song, Bradley, that's doing it properly, but it's a different mix than from the other one that it was in. The usual mix that I use for that song, like, is one where that's first. It's actually the first one that's there, and I'm pretty sure I've named it, do it properly. This one here, this particular mix is August 8th. This mix was the Lionsgate portal of this year, right? 8/8. For those of you who are familiar with that, August 8th, that's the Lionsgate portal. So that's why this is actually a pretty powerful mix, I would say. All right, so let me say this, okay. God, the Creator, exists outside of time, okay? And when I lean forward, I'm leaning into the mic. I don't suppose I need to, but I want to be clear. I want to speak clearly. And I kind of like doing that because it gives me a sense of, I'm talking into the mic, I'm trying to be clear. But then I'm like, I look up and I'm like, I keep leaning over. And when I see that in the videos, I don't really like that. All right. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. God, the Creator, and part of this I'm getting from the Brahmins, the Hindu, kind of thing of this, that the God, the Creator, exists outside of time. Okay, the Creator, the part of the Creator that exists outside of time, doesn't vibrate. Prime mover, prime source creator is the prime mover. Okay, doesn't move. Right? But from which everything moves. Okay. That is the impersonal force that is the one God, right? Prime mover, prime source, the all. The all that ever is, the all that ever will be, what we all go back to is not differentiated, blah, blah, blah. Okay. However, that is not personal, not personable. You can't touch it. You can't see it. You're not ever going to know that. It's beyond. All right. So, we couldn't be here unless there was a mediating, differentiating medium, a force that allows for the differentiation of energies into the smallest of components. You can't leave anything out. From the biggest, the archangel, there's one, I was reading about a legend of an angel that they give, the size of this angel is a journey of 600 years. You know how they give the light years a distance? Well, this was a 600-year journey to get from one end of this angel to another. Like, all right, that boggles the mind, but all right, it's a relative size of scale. So when you start talking about things, densities, again, for those of you who were here for the last, the premiere where I talk about this, where there's the dimensions and then there's the densities. The density is the repeating pattern. Right? It's just at its simplest element. It is cyclical motion. It is repeating pattern. It is the recognizable 93% rather, probability wave that it's going to continue as such. It's once in motion, it's going to keep moving in motion unless acted upon by another outside force 93% of the time. Okay. The wave function operates by time, right? Cycles per second. So you couldn't have a cyclically repeating thing without there being a measure of time. So things that are created, the densities, need that platform of time, of some type of time. It's got to repeat, but it's a linear time upon which it gets measured or upon which it gets bounced off, right? So your first dimension in this becomes time because you have to have that substrate that it moves on. Right? So there is the the resonance of the spheres, the harmony of the spheres. There is the word. The spoken word is the first thing that comes forth. Because from the infinite, from the invisible, from the unknown, it gets channeled into a form of sound. Right. Oh, Mimsky, hello. So we have the first tones that come from resonances and all of that you speak forth, and and so that's why language itself is sacred, because it is a fractal, a little small fractal of the original principle of movement, but harmonic movement, and not noise, which is disharmonious movement, if you will, if that makes sense. And I get a sneeze here, so hold on a second. Yes, you are absolutely right. There's not many people you can have this conversation with, and quite honestly, in my view, there's no one you can have this conversation with except the 10 of you. How many of you are there? Us, sorry, 9. The 10 of us, all right. Right, so, indeed, that is why, oh my God, all right. I'm going to give you something to consider. There's a, all right, all right, Mimsky, let me, hold on. Pop this out. Bam. All right, so I'm going to, and I'm still working on the other chat. I'm still trying to answer the thing about time. All right. I've answered, I said a bunch of words about the time thing, so I guess I can take a break from that. I'll just say this. All right. So, something you said here. The tongue, can you see that? All right. There we go. So just in case, and I like to remember that the in these videos, when they play, the chat doesn't always come with it. I don't know why that doesn't, why that works or doesn't work. But I like to have as a reminder that the chat doesn't always appear with the video. And so my videos, my work, I interact a lot with you guys, and I will read comments up. Now, like Wager's World, you see him, he has the chat. He has like one screen, so he kind of moves it out of his way, but he's always got it up because he doesn't have a place off stage like I do. That's kind of how I look at this. The backstage, the other monitor is the backstage. So he doesn't have a backstage. So, but I like documenting here the comments, boom, because people say valid things. You say, and some things are very valid, and in case I don't, it's like a running documentary. All right, so I'm sure you get what I'm saying. All right. So, all right. So, the tongue is stronger than the sword. So, I'm going to make this is a little short story, short narrative that goes along with that. Okay, so I do a Facebook group. All right. I do one I'm the admin of, which I have a high standard, high bar. People aren't playing with the bullshit posts with my group. All right. The other one, I'm the mod. That's Schumann resonance, and I'm the mod. I'm a little bit more lenient with that. It's the beginners, the newcomers, and I let some stuff go and whatever, But I still keep a fairly high standard, because we're there to learn about, and we don't need distractions. Anyway, so one of the members over there asked me if there's a Telegram group, the one that I'm the mod for. She asked if there's a Telegram group for that, and I said no, I'm not even familiar with Telegram. It's a messaging service. And she was like, oh, it's great, people love it. And so I'm like, you got to kind of convince me on this. I basically answered her, no, we don't. We have a very weak leader who's like an absentee leader over there. I'm the mod, but I post everything. I'm the guy that knows. I'm the guy that knows everything. So but there was a lot of, there's a lot of feedback on that. Like, okay, so in the back of my head, I was thinking I want to do more with people one-on-one for people who specifically want to know more about, like, in a more intimate kind of way than the public. I mean, this is nice, but it's the public format. So in a more kind of personal way to, where people can get more, more specific kind of things or whatever. Just, you know what I'm saying. Like Zoom or these other ways to do it. These avenues are opening up. So I told her I'm not familiar with it, but, why don't you keep up your post and, get some, it was a good post. People were talking about it. And I was like, all right, there was interest in it. It's like, all right, so maybe, let me learn. So I went over, I downloaded the thing, and I talked to her on Messenger, and basically, Lily, her name is Lily. Okay. So I talked to Lily that, I said, she says, I want to just kind of read and be in the background and, me, what I do, me, she wants to do that. I'm like, I know, I'm doing that. You can't do that, I didn't say that, but I'm thinking that. And so, so she says, she doesn't feel she has a lot to offer. No, okay, she's a newcomer, fine enough. I'm willing to accept that. But it's like, more about this, the Telegram thing than I do. So, so we're talking about it. And so I was basically like, I'll make a deal with you. I don't really want to talk one-on-one to people personally like that. I'm a better writer than a talker, quite honestly. And so, I would rather, I'm better at not having to think on my feet or in the moment or in the spur of the moment. I would rather kind of have the script ready and do that, because I get distracted and I go off everywhere when I'm talking one-to-one. That's my problem. Not that I'm shy or whatever, but it's like I sometimes can't get to a point or if you've been here long enough, you know what I'm saying. So that's, it's a thing. All right. So, I get off track, but in a fun way. It's a good way. All right, but I'm still off track. All right. So, so Lily is, we're going back and forth. I downloaded the app on my phone, getting it to work. I started a channel there. So basically I told her, like, I'll make a deal with you. I'll get up there and talk and work through my anxiety if you do as well. Like you gotta agree with me here. Like this is, you're kind of the leader on this. And so if you want me, I'm the talent, you gotta kind of be the leader on this, the means of communication. I will be there to do my part and have something to communicate. But, like this is not, I told you, this is not my cup of tea. You really have to be the liaison. I didn't use that word, but, the $5 word. But basically I said, you got to be the promoter, I said. And so that's sort of what we're talking about here. The tongue is stronger than the sword. All right, well, this is where we're going with this. That I don't know anything about it. She asked a very simple question, but it garnered interest. It garnered 30 people or something, like in just that post, responded and like, oh, then there's a debate, which one's better, and this one, and I like this for this. All right, lively debate, hands off, let this run. That's kind of what my thing was. Like, let's find out about this because there's interest, and so when I'm messaging her and talking to her back and forth, and I'm having her work me through the installation of this, or not the technical part, but like, how do you figure out, all right, I what people have done to me, I did exactly that. Like, all right, I downloaded it, I installed it, now what? All right, now what do I do? I felt like someone's grandfather. I was talking to the grandkids. All right, what do I do now, Sonny? So she said, invite people. And I'm like, well, the people that I have in my contacts, and none of them, in real life want to talk about the Schumann resonances, trust me. Then she says, invite the group, the Facebook group. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm asking you for. That's what you got to help me for. Like that's what you're here for. Is, I don't know how to do that. I made the group, and I told her basically I did the hard part. I made the group, And she sent me a couple of times the link to it. Like, yeah, it looks like the name I wrote. Yeah, what do I do with it? You sent it to me. I don't know how to send it to you. You figured it out. Like, I'm like, you really need to be the the kind of the forerunner of this, because I'm lost. If you're gonna wait for me to figure this out, we're done. We're done, sister. Like, and but I have to have the willingness. That's the thing. I have to have the willingness to want to be dragged on that. I'm not really being dragged, but it's like I'm being dragged, but not kicking and screaming. I'm walking in my own power. Okay, so I'm not being dragged. All right. But I'm being pulled into. Maybe that's it. I'm being guided. I'm being pulled into the 21st century, whatever. Because there's a need to. So what I told her, anyway, the moral of the story, as we're working through this, we're going to set up something. And right now, the last I checked, the group had 23 members, 23 channel. It's a channel. Over on Telegram, it's a channel. Had 23 subscribers or members. Who the F did all... Like, as soon as I put the name out there, I had one person, and then there was two, and they don't appear to be like the computer thing, but like, okay, all right. Oh, and I invited some people. I figured out how to do that and this and that. All right. So anyway, where I'm getting to is this, that she and I agree on a truth that, all right, first thing, we're resonating on a truth that there is a need and a call and a want for this to happen. Okay, just talking, right? We know. She and I, we both know. I know, you know, right? There's 10 of you here at least that know that as well, that there's a core need to understand the resonances, Schumann resonances, and the rest of all the rest of this. It's beyond. I agree. She agreed. And I told her, without your inspiration and your encouragement, I wouldn't do this. I couldn't do this. Right? And I just let her know that you're a shining, bright and shining promoter that can move. I can see you can get things done. I saw the post you made. Like, I wouldn't have been, like, I can't, got to know my limitations. All right? I can do great in a lot of things, but there are things I'm not good at. And this is part of one of the chores, one of the things that we learn. There are just things I'm not good at, and you got to ask for help. And so when help comes along, you got to sort of be able to know, is this my help? So what I tell her is this. One person might not be able to make a difference. They do something, they do some work, and they may get noticed, they may not. All right. However, one person with a terrific personality who can inspire people, who can motivate other people, that motherfucker's moving mountains. It's that simple, right? People can get stuff done, right? Whether or not it makes a difference, I don't know, But with the advent, the density of the personality there, it makes a difference. And so that's what I wanted to say there. The tongue is stronger than the sword. What that means is, to me, here, in this application here, is that if you don't have the ability to talk and work through the voice and that might even be written, right? We're texting. I didn't actually talk with her. So the tongue we're going to, us, right now, we're going to amend that word tongue to also include the written word, tongue being metaphorical, and sword being also metaphorical for the obstacles and censorship, right? The sword of the censors, acts. Anyway. All right, so I want to finish up on the time thing, because there's the invisible and then there's the dense. Okay, the visible, the formless, spirit rests and resides much in the imaginary, the illusory, the disconnected, the abstract. Okay. However, spirit is known through and communicates through senses, sensory input. And that sensory input could be in a higher dimension, a higher mental state. So when people talk to me about dimensions, I consider mental state. So your time is one of them, mathematics is another one of them, your intention is another one of them, and visible state, that is a matter of degrees. Okay. So I'm going to read the comments here. Oh my. I was remiss on the comments for a while. Thank y'all for keeping up on the comments and everything. I appreciate that. And, the love and support everyone has, and, everyone, really is helpful and wants to help. And it's just, y'all are wonderful people, just by the way. So, the formless doesn't have time, doesn't need time, right? But God is not just. If God was only the formless and the sacred and the name that shall be named, you'd never know God. We wouldn't be here. You wouldn't, that part of God that's invisible and all that, that exists. However, the part of creation, the spark of life that's in us, that's a different thing. Right? That is not theoretical. The spark of life, the breath of life, is a density. It's a reality. It's a physical, repetitive pattern. The resonances, the harmonics are repetitive patterns. The 93% probability of the return of the cycle, of the wave, of it being within a organized time, like roughly the same time every year, approximately, to grow stuff. This is the intersection of the mind, the mental. Your thoughts create your reality, intersected with the resonance, the harmonic resonance with the molecules themselves, right? So that's the two, the invisible, the dimensional, and then the density. And so relative to the Schumann resonances, the two are played out in the amplitude, that's the electric, the upright, and the other one is the waves, the magnetics, and that is the potential. So time that's at God, on God's side, that doesn't exist. But when we start talking about anything created, it has a beginning and an end, okay? So you have to look at it this way, that anything that's been created, it will be destroyed, right? No matter how long it takes, beyond your lifetime, beyond my lifetime, it doesn't matter, but it will be destroyed. If it had a beginning, it's got an end. It will have an end. So there is, again, time is a dimension because it's infinitely variable scale down from, the atomic level of, microseconds to the kalpa, which is the breath of Kali, or Brahma, I think. The kalpa is like a million years or some shit, right? The breath, the intake of the breath of Brahm is kalpa, which is, they have these smaller other increments of time in there that are celestial time that go beyond, you can't, you couldn't fathom the amount of time, but it's in the creation, the blink of an eye, the birth and death of a galaxy, of a universe, of a multi-universe. Like, it's well beyond the scale. So there is a point that time doesn't exist, and in your mind, in the dimensions of mind, of temporal, time doesn't exist, yet your heartbeat, your heart rate, you eating, you breathing, you having to use the toilet, the craving for a cigarette, your heartbeat itself. That's the first primary substantial dimension of linear time is your heartbeat. Every person's heartbeat is a little different. The rate is a little different. And that's why every person has a different conception of linear time. All right. All right. So I mentioned that before. I'm going to kind of leave that at that because I think I'm kind of on the. I think I'm starting to repeat myself. I think I've made it through the point about linear time that if it's created, it has a time, right? If it's not been created, it doesn't. The time is irrelevant, But it's based on time as a way. It's been said time is a way to keep all things from happening at one time, But if it's vibrations, a vibration is a cycle per second. Remember that. So, there's different ways that a wave can travel, different directions. Sometimes it cycles itself, it keeps repeating, the wave keeps repeating, and it becomes like a standing wave or a density. It's outside of frequency, it's in like density. I don't know how to explain it. Nice. All right. So that's an interesting conversation. Oh my God! Someone asked me. Who asked me a question? Oh, Elizabeth, you asked me a question, and I'm still on like 4 questions ago. I think I've just gotten through the time question. I think. I'm saying it's good enough. You asked logic, simulated reality. Okay. They say time is a side effect of consciousness. BS. How is 4D more malleable? All right. So that's this question that was up here. All right. Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that. Among all the other things, time is. I think that's a good phrase to put it. Time is a side effect of consciousness because anything that's created has a time, right? A beginning and an end, right? It's, anything that is created vibrates, it moves, it resonates. So these are just some general rules of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say general rules of engagement, but general first operating principles in this. All right. So I just kind of addressed the time issue that it's attached to creation, right? And there is a detachment of consciousness to creation. Yeah, so I can see. I mean, it does follow through there. See, this is eventually where we're going. 4D. Do you mean 4 dimension or fourth density? Right? Because this is sort of what we're talking about as well. I don't know if I can answer that. Right. Elizabeth, you asked a question. I don't know if I can answer it. How is 4D more malleable? I'm not sure. I mean, I know I use that word malleable, I said, but we have 2 different things we're working on here, or talking about, or whatever. They're not quite the same thing. So you're thinking of the common, I believe, you're talking about the common 4D of the builders, right? 4D being nonlinear time, I think, so that's the Masons. I'm going to say it's the Masons. The original builders were the Masons of this. And if you don't know, the compass and the square is their symbol. And that's what this is. It's the imposition of measurement on matter and the imposition of degrees on the infinite. Okay, so that's what the square and the compass are about. Now, they have imposed their system of measurement as dimensions. Okay. Builders give you length, height, width as the dimensions of any given project. But there's one more missing part to it that is actually time. Right? You divided the circle 360 degrees into 90s. There's 3 90s, 3 axes. You're still missing a 90 in there somewhere, so it's time. But that fourth dimension is not nonlinear time if we are going to use this messed up system of space-time, right? You got 3 density, 3 measurements. You get it's basically the coordinate system in space, and then there's time. Okay, so this is part of the battle of this is basically, how do I say that? To understand when we talk about 4D, that if you're going to include time and space, you need to include the first, linear time is the first one, and then nonlinear time is the second one. Okay? All right, so we are already at fifth dimension just by including linear time. So everyone here, right now, is already living in 5D. Okay? I want you, everyone, whoever you are, Daniel Thibodeau, Elizabeth, Robed, Ricky, you are all currently living in 5D right now as an everyday. Not even any big of a deal. All right? Some of you may be a little bit more of a bigger deal than others. Okay? When I talk about 5D, okay, what am I talking about? This is where you, okay, I don't care what anyone else told you. You go over anywhere else, they'll tell you whatever. They don't know shit, all right? I'm going to tell you how my guides have explained it to me. Living in 5D is you needing to meet up with someone. This is an example. You needing to meet up with someone. You have an appointment with someone that's really important. You're going to meet at a linear time, 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay? The time isn't necessarily relevant, but you agreed to 9 o'clock. All right, that's when you can do, that's when I can. Okay, so you're on your way to meet that person. They're on their way to meet you. On your way to get there to the meeting, you're late. There's an accident on the highway. Crap. You're frantic. This meeting is really super important. You go to call the person to let them know you're running late. There's no answer on their phone. Fuck. You text. All right, you hope it's enough. You text again. You're a little bit of a nuisance, but you want to know it's important, and you're wondering, crap, what did I do? All right, so but you're on your way to you're on your way linearly. You're on your way to that important appointment. You are on your way to, in a linear fashion. You're in your car, you're driving, you're adhering to linear time, the clock, you agree to it. All right. This is 3D. They're going by the same clock you are. They're linear meeting you. You're going by the same clock they are. You're linearly meeting them. You're supposed to meet at a nexus point, right? A vector, time and a space. Boom. 7 Stars Bakery. Okay. Meet at 7 Stars at 9 o'clock. Accident. You're late. You call. No response on their end. Crap. You're frantic. You're trying to take a shortcut. That ain't happening. You text. Let them know I'm on the way. Nothing response on the other one. And you're like, oh, man. You get there. You're late. You're half an hour late, and you're wondering, did the person leave? They didn't, like crap, So you get there, they're not there. But then, within 4 minutes, that person comes in the door, a little bedraggled, grazzled, they're doing a little worse than you are. Well, they forgot their phone. They were on their way. They were actually early to meet you. They're on their way, and they realize they didn't have the charger for their phone. The phone's dead. They had to go back to their house to plug in the charger, and the phone, they're having problems with the charger and the thing, and almost got in an accident trying to plug in the phone. Oh my God, it's hectic. You both have fun stories, but randomly, totally, completely randomly, having nothing to do with you or the other person, you both were late, equally as late. And you both, frantically trying to meet each other, didn't accept that the universe got you back, okay? Or maybe you're like me, and you take these things in stride. Well, yeah, if you're living in 5D, you take these things in stride. That there was a holdup at the bus, and that I'm supposed to be somewhere, but I'm not. Oh, man. I'm where I'm supposed to be, right? I'm not taking on the problems of the bus. I'm not holding that weight, right? I can't fix the bus. The universe got my back. I did what I should do. I texted the person a few times, and I just leave it. I trust it. 3D living is you on that crazy schedule, making it happen. But when the universe is telling you need to wait a little bit, there's something else going on, and you get a ticket because you're on your way speeding, and then you're even more late because you didn't let the universe guide you through this, and you got it, and you're all set, and you know what you're doing. That's 3D living. I'm directed, I got my shit down, I'm doing it anyway, right? That's 3D living. 5D is where you accept there's a linear time here, a linear time there, and then there's the difference between fate and destiny is fate. Destiny is where you're supposed to be anyway. That meeting with the person, where you're supposed to be anyway, that's destiny, right? That's the moment, that's that moment, finishing that moment of, that appointment, getting there. Meeting the person, all right. So that appointment, we're supposed to, meet as we're done with that, all right. So there's the path, there's the destiny you're supposed to be at, and then there's the pathway, the fate that you took to get there. So that's the difference between the imagination, the imaginary, and the density. That with the balance of the two. Right, and this is what I'm proposing. One is not any better than the other. You can't have one without the other, and you're not going to ascend without being at union with the other. So if you're living more in your head than in your heart, it's the equal problem as more in your heart than in your head. It amounts to the same thing because the brain, which needs to be evened out, and the human and everyone, and each and every single person, like that's part of the harvest, is it needs to be leveled out. Like that's part of what has to happen with the humans, with people, and the growth is that it's that if you are not, like that's part of what the ascension is that if you're like it's a seesaw. If you're unbalanced, and even this is baffling what I'm saying to you, you might be having a difficult time. But no matter what your polarity is, one side or another, if you're way masculine, you got to feminize up, at least in your thinking and in your demeanor, which could be. Don't be assuming you got it all. Believe that a change in plan is what the universe has for you, right? So one of those masculine qualities that may be holding you back is rigidly holding on to the plan, right? That and by the plan, we mean the linear time clock, right? Your agenda, The linear da-ding, 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 da-ding. First this has to happen, then that has to happen, and that has to happen, right? This is all conceptual. Anything that's on a time schedule, the clock, the linear clock, is should be looked at as a guide, right? The people that look at the linear clock, the time clock, as the most important thing are low density people. Because time does not exist of itself without being in agreement with the time and the place. So time as a linear fashion, like we got a schedule, we got an agenda, like that's as time allows, and the difference between the we have third density or third dimension as we have, and I don't use the term third dimension. That's just fucked up. It's dementia. Like it's just don't ever use it. Like third density, that's the physical construct that you got to get your head around. Dimensions are invisible. They're head up your ass kind of shit. I don't know a better way to put it. People that are talking about 5D, like, once again, let's go back to what we talked about. You have length, height, width, nonlinear time, then what? Where are you going from there? Heaven? I don't know. You tell me. Where are you going? Uranus? That is that is mass, that is matter, that is, if you look at the construct of the builders, they even have a messed up kind of system that they have. The builders, length, height, and width are giving you 3 axes, and there's 4 90-degree angles that need to be considered, and that's time. All right, you really got to consider that invisible 4th dimension is linear time, because nothing moves in if you're looking to get paid, honey, if you're working for money, there is no nonlinear time. No, I worked 2 hours. I'm getting paid for 2 hours. I didn't work for 8 hours and you're paying me for 2 because it's a nonlinear thing. Like, no, hell no. No. No, I work 8 hours for you, then I go home. Okay, like this is part of what is the fuckery that's inherent in the 3-axis system. Just in the Cartesian grid, if we accept the builder's length, height, width as the primary 3 dimensions, okay, right? We're talking about dimensions, not even densities. No one knows what densities are, except me, and maybe 2 of you at this point. Sorry. It's very complex. It's not you, it's me. So if you just look at the old paradigm, I'm calling this the old paradigm, the old standard, the decaying educational system of what they've ingrained in your head, the Cartesian grid system, which is going to fall, right? It has to fall. It will be falling. Right, the 4D, if we have the 4th dimension, the magic 4th dimension, the invisible 4th dimension, that's linear time, okay? So you can't get away from, you can't say, oh, we're going to nonlinear time without it being, you accept that the first one is a dimension, right? The linear bit. You fuckers have imposed the clock on us, you're not going to run away, you can't get away, that's the first dimension, is linear time. Before any space happens, before any eventuality, before any repeatability, before any density gets developed, before any gravity, before any of that happens, there has to be that measurement of the time scale. Otherwise, you're God. Right? I mean, anything created has a time. Anything, and especially with humans, because they live in such a short time span. Of course, like with humans, there isn't a way you can do without it. You can't not have time in the human scale. You only live 50, 60, 70 years. It's just a, it's just a, it's just a very understood thing. That's what the Masons, why, how, why, wherefore, how, why, and wherefore, how, they have those two symbols there that you don't know what they are. You see them all over the place. You don't know what they are. You don't know what they mean. Well, it's part of what this is. It's part of what their lessons that they give you. I mean, I can go a lot more into the symbols, and I can go a lot more into the buildings and decoding the architecture and all of that. Okay, but I'm not going to. This is not a place where, But relative to those two symbols, and you've seen what I do in my other job. Okay, just those of you, the 10 of you regular ones, you've seen what I do. My building, I do construction. I do masonry. I work with a square. I work with a compass. I know what they are. I know it's not just symbolic for me. I know what they are used for. I've used them. In the last project that we did, in the boxes with the planters, we needed a square, right? We're using bricks. You need a square. So, JVF, we are demigods. We are half gods in a human body. Like, that's like, you can't. One can't escape the visceral, right? If you're able to float outside of your body, or you're not contained in the body, the density of the body, you are a legitimate God. You can, you're of that. You have that ability. But here, in the physical realm, you have to affect that change through one of your battery terminals. So your empty thinking, your visible realm in your head, you can't affect any change. Just thinking I'm God does nothing. It really does nothing. Like, you can think anything you want, but it's not attached to a density. That's really super important here. The dimensions of math, dimension of time, is it's all in your mind. It's all temporal. It doesn't exist. It's meaningless. It has no form. It doesn't exist. God is a dimension, right? There's in the understanding of God, there's many degrees, many paths to God, right? There's the creator outside of all of this that doesn't care. It's impassionate, and it's a force. There's the part of the prime mover of the creator that it has no personality, right? So you can believe in that, pray to that, that's fine, right? Or there is the part that humans need of prime creator that has been created, which is the personality, the lowering into densities. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. Speaking forth energy, differentiating forms of tones, speaking it forth in a directed way it's expressing consciousness, but it's also you're feeling some of the words. You're not just thinking them, right? Like, this is really important. You can be God in your head, right? That's fine, but it's also meaningless, right? If you can't affect a feeling in the other, the density part, the other half of your brain, right? If you pray to God quietly, silently, to yourself, that's fine, right? No worries, that's great, no problems. However, there is the other half of it missing by you being by yourself, not being part of a congregation of like-minded people, like you guys, for example. This is our church, if you will. I hope you're not offended by this, by me calling it a church of sorts. The cult of spirituality, how about that? I like that term. And being in a fellowship of your others, of your fellows. Like, we need that. You can't find God, a person, you, me. We can't find God We are not God without ministering to our other, right? Like that's the in all the talk of I am God, there needs to, or we are God, or creator, or we're fucking all of that in a bag of chips. You ain't shit if you don't help the homeless people, right? You think you're something? You want to be something, right? What do you think? What do you got? What do you think you got that is anything close to divine? What would God do, right? Think how great he is? No. God would be right there in the front line, helping the alcoholics, helping the addicts, helping the people with venereal disease, working in the hospital. Right? Because, why? Because that's what humans who have feelings do for one another. We help each other. We feel something, and you feel bad, and you help the person. Right? What kind of cold-blooded lizard sees someone on the side of the road who's in pain and walks by him? What kind of piece of pavement does that? Right? Like, I don't know. Right? But there's a lot of empty-headed people who have no feelings attached to their head and are all just living in their own head, them and their money, or them and their car, or them and the bitch they're going to fuck that night, or whatever. Who knows? It doesn't even matter. Whatever they got, whatever thing has gotten in the way of their sense of, compassion and caring and empathy, right? That's what is the shift, that you get out of your own head and into the heart space of someone else. And that is part of the job of the Schumann resonances, is that it's vibrating at fear, it's vibrating at guilt, it's vibrating at shame, and it's vibrating at lies. There you go. Those resonances. And I went through them earlier, at least in the other video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch the premiere before this at some point, and it'll make more sense to you. But when I talk about these frequencies, fear, first one's fear. You got to get rid of fear, or you're not going anywhere. Fear, guilt, shame, the lowest of the lowest, 10, 20, 30 hertz. Beyond that, then you have a chance of rising. But the harvest time, the clearing time, comes when you get rid of your primary lens of fear as the motivation, and then you move the next one up to guilt, and then the next one up in shame, and then you shift, you feel it, things open up, you're like, what the fuck just happened there? That's the final clearing. But you don't get that until you have released the fear you have of whatever you fear, of being homeless, of losing all your shit, of whatever thing you fear the most. You need to deal with that. If you can't, you're not willing to, you're not ready to, you're not under a rush to, but you need to move, you need to do it, and you need to do it soon. No one's rushing you. Take your time, but do it soon. Right? It's that simple. This is it now. It's the clearing time now. And believe me when I tell you that if it was not the clearing time, I would not be here now. I would not have incarnated. I was fine where I was. I was great where I was, but it's time. It's time. And you can believe of that what you want, believe of me what you want, think I'm some crackpot, that's fine, don't care. I don't have a belief to sell you. I don't have anything to, like if you feel what I'm saying is challenging your belief, that's unfortunate because I have no belief that I'm challenging yours with. Like there's my experience, what I've been through this is the experience I've been through before I incarnated here. Like, okay, that's a thing. And then there's the observations I have here of what's been revealed to me in this lifetime, So, all right, so I'm just following the comments here, okay. I think there's a patch there I can leave well enough alone on. So I make it a point to tell everyone that, I've said this often enough, and I've said it in different ways, that, a lot of people come to the Schumann resonances thinking that it's a big, how do I say this? People come looking for the ascension value to the Schumann resonances. I don't know how to better put it, but they've come looking for the ascension. Like I read it, raising Earth's vibration, and all of the comments. I read it on the Facebook, and that's one of the reasons why I put that comment up there. Why are you here? So I could get a basic a poll of why people are, why are you looking up the Schumann resonances? So I have, 1,000 people who've, over 1,000 people have answered the question. So I have a good survey of why people are here in this and looking for what they're looking for, and so a lot of people have assigned a spiritual or ascension value to the Schumann resonances, which isn't necessarily wrong, but as I've said before, no one gets any ascension until the harvest is done. So, the harvest is the cleaning. The harvest is not turning a blind eye to someone in need. It's really that simple. There's other ways you can look at it, Oh, thank you, Daniel. That's very nice. Yeah, there's a lot of... Daniel, you make a point about depression. I'm going to say this and get off the, just willingly get off topic and say this, that it's my personal belief. There's a couple different things I can, I have been diagnosed with depression, right? A depression disorder. Okay. I feel regularly depressed, like I'm, up to and including like debilitating, like I'm not getting out of bed. My mother was depressed, and that was, she had a chemical imbalance, right? Hormone imbalance, right? As, a lot of pregnant women do. They have a hormone imbalance, and depression is one of those kind of symptoms. So the mental half of the brain says you can think your way out of it. The mental half that's disconnected from feelings says you can think your way out of anything, right? If you just have better thinking. And so the doctors love the idea of the thinking because, we can all add it up and the numbers are blah, 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 blah. So, that's what has run the course is the head first, headstrong diagnosis of thinking your way through it and all the different ways of thinking, whatever. But depression, when it comes down to it, if you've ever had it, it's a body feeling. It's a body sensation. Like, I'm not getting out of bed. And there's no way you can think your way. There is no thought powerful enough. You cannot outthink depression. If you have depression, you're done. You're like sunk. All of the density of the earth, of the weight of the earth is on you. You feel it. You feel every ounce of gravity in depression. And I wonder what the connection with the Schumann resonances, the lowest frequency of the 7.8. Remember, Schumann resonances are a series of frequencies. They're a series of resonances. It's not just one. The Schumann resonances is not attached by an umbilical cord to Earth's magnetic EMF frequency. Like, you got to remember, there are two different things. There's a series of harmonics. So the first one is actually at 4.5. Then the next one is at 7.8. And then the next one up is 14.2. So right there. All right. you have... All right, let me put it this way, JVF. All right. First thing I'll say, because you asked, all right, so I'm answering this question here. This one here. Can you explain why the 14 hertz is getting more steady? All right. So, wrong one. That's not the one I wanted. All right. So, I'll answer it to you this way. That you can't... The harmonic resonances, the Schumann resonances, again, they're series, and as you pointed out, it's like 14.2 hertz. That one is you're noticing it's active. They are built one upon the other. All right. So, generally speaking, they're not interdependent. They are dependent on the one before it. It's like a cup that overfills. Okay? If you can imagine that. A cup that overfills. If you can picture... All right. I want to give you an analogy. I've given those of you, my regulars, know I've given a lot of analogies, a lot of pictures. I try and make it so it makes sense in your head in different ways, depending on what the questions is, and what we're dealing with. All right, so let me give you an analogy of what the Schumann resonances are, because it's a series. There's multiple ones of them. I have in other broadcasts I've given the money analogy. Okay, and the money analogy is this. Okay, this is the first one. The money analogy is one analogy. I've given that before, and then the other one is the bucket analogy. All right, so first the money analogy of the Schumann resonances. That what's happening with the higher harmonics, and they're harmonics. These are resonant harmonics. They're not frequencies. They're different from rolling, propagating frequencies. You've got to remember that. These are waves that are standing in place at that frequency, right? The harmonics are a difference in two original frequencies. It's mathematics. It's a complex order. There has to be two different frequency waves in order for you to get the third frequency. Okay, you got to remember that. The harmonics, the resonant harmonics, are the third frequency. It's a standing wave. It's no longer rolling. It catches itself and it's still there. Okay. 17 people. Very nice. So, it's like going to the bank or getting money back from the bank. You take a deposit out of the bank, but you can get it in dollar bills, you can get it in 50-cent pieces, you can get it in quarters, you can get it in dimes, or you can get it in pennies. Okay? So, you have, let's say, $250. You cash your paycheck. Let's say the money coming, the solar rays coming from the sun is the paycheck. So you've got a massive, substance, massive stuff came from the sun, like that's your paycheck. Then you got to divide it up. So you can divide it all into dollar bills. You can divide it into quarters. You can divide, you got to pay a bunch of people. Like the parking meter, for example, takes quarters. The laundry machine takes quarters. You have the piggy bank for your kid. You're going to put the pennies in the piggy bank. So you break up that paycheck into different amounts of dollar bills, quarters, dimes. The phone used to take dimes, So there's a budget for that amount that comes in. And what you're doing is you're breaking it up into different sections or different segments depending on where it falls, where the necessity of it is. Some things cost more money. I'm trying to give you a general analogy here. That's a rough analogy. Okay, so you have an allowance of so many dollar bills, and then so many quarters, and so many dimes. Okay. But sometimes what happens is you don't need to park as much in a week, so you don't need as many quarters. Then it gets converted to dimes. You still need the same amount of phone calls. Then it gets converted to nickels, right? You're at the maximum of nickels, but you can use more in the pennies. You can always use more in the pennies, and the pennies are the tiniest of the wavelengths of the approximately 45 hertz. So anything that doesn't get used, this is theory now, anything that doesn't get used or there's a certain amount that it hits at the resonance, at the first resonance of, say, the dollar bill, the big one, the 7.8, it hits its maximum, and then it moves up. It can't move any faster than that. It's always going to stay at that frequency, but maybe a little bit, but not that much. It's always going to be between 8.0 at the maximum to 7.3. It stays within that range. So the lowest harmonic is never going to go past 8 ever, because that's what the speed of light is exactly 8. It's not going past the fundamental of 8 hertz. So what happens is it's not moving any faster, it breaks up. So the Schumann resonances aren't moving faster, they break up. Okay? Once you've reached that density point of how much you can put in how many dollar bills you can put in, $7, right? You can do a 5 and 2 ones, but once you've hit that $7.8, you might be able to make $8. You might put $8 in there, or sometimes it might be $7.30. Okay, but somewhere in there, $7 your savings for your rent is always got to be $7.80. Okay, in order to get your eventually paycheck after paycheck after paycheck correctly and properly, the rent money has to be $7.80. You're taking 7.8. You're taking out of the paycheck every time, right? You might need 8. Sometimes you might take 8 to be safe or secure, but you're not taking more than 8 because you have the rest of the pie that it goes out to. So you have the dollar bills that are at 7.8. You have the next one up, which is the 14.2 hertz. That would be the 50-cent pieces. Then the next one up after that, 20.7 or 20.8. That is the quarter pieces, right? You start getting what I'm saying? So the 14.2 hertz we asked about way back when, right? 2 days ago when you asked me about this, that second harmonic up, 14.2, that gets activated once the first one, the 7.8, reaches its peak. It's not moving past 8, and then it splits up. It's like a roulette. You get a good hand, you get a pair, it splits up, right? That's the way it kind of works. That it reaches a point, a stability point, and then it splits, and then goes into the next mode. And that's part of what we're talking about with these densities. What the densities of the Schumann resonances is it's depending on the frequency. You have the first one, the first density, the first harmonic is 7.8. That's the first one. That's the lowest. That's the fear frequency. And then the next one up is your guilt frequency. The next one up is 14. You've got to get past the 14.2 or 14.4. Right? In order for you to resolve the guilt portal energy, you got to be at 14.4. You have to, you got to get rid of all of your guilt. Flushed. The guilt gets flushed at 14.4, put it that way. So the densities so the dimensions don't matter because they're invisible. It's the densities that are real. The densities are your physical, like I've given them out, your chakra points, your physical densities. These are what needs to get cleared first, and you're 7, right? You have 7. Once you get past, your first one, the fear chakra, right? The first one is your root, that's fear. And then I'm reading the comments. Why has my guilt been so high? Well, because, I can give you, relative to look, I don't know what's going on in your personal life or you or any of that. Okay, but let me ask you this. Relative to the clearing in your life, what have you done to clear out all of the guilt that you have? Have you made amends to people? Have you tried to, resolve it? Right? It's because you have to, only you can ask that question. Why has your guilt been so high? You're feeling, the feeling, right? Your emotion, that emotional center that you're feeling, it may not be related to anything. It may be being triggered by the resonances, and if they are, it may not be. I don't know, maybe you robbed a bank, I don't know. But relative to what the resonances are doing, sympathetic vibration, harmonic motion, like these are the areas of what the resonances are pulling out in people, right? The Schumann resonances aren't rising up; they're staying right where they're at. And so, if you have guilt issues, you're gonna work out. They're percolating. They're boiling up to the surface. You have no choice. Physically speaking, you have no choice. That 93% probability, right? If it's active, highly active, that the 14.2 or 14.4 is highly active, you're going to get triggered. You're going to feel it. You may or may not know what to do with it. You may or may not have latent guilt, but you're going to feel it, right? That's what that center is. You got to ground that. Right? And a lot of this on this, I'll even throw it out. You got to ground it. Elizabeth, you're saying that everything, yes, that's part of what this is. Happy, happy, sad, it's all the same. It doesn't matter if it's happy or sad. It really doesn't. Release it. All right. Let me offer you this, because you all are wonderful. How many people are here right now? We have, 17. Lucky magic 17. All right. So, let me offer you this. That, I don't know if it's the same thing with women, how y'all are doing, but men, like, boys don't cry. That's what we're told. Like, they don't cry. All right. Men are told to stop for emotions, don't feel them, you don't feel nothing, right? Don't cry, this and that. All right. But I want to mention something. There's 2 processes that happen. There is weeping, and then there's crying. Okay. So, crying would be you calling out for help. Okay? You fell in a ditch, you're crying, and you're hurt, you're in pain. All right, that's one thing. Then there is the weeping. And more people feel what's weeping than crying. Weeping is what a wound does when it seeps out the like pus. That's what weeping is. When you clear out emotional and spiritual baggage that's been attached to you like barnacles, that's what weeping is. That if you were just If you are processing emotions from way back and you're processing and you let something go, that's a weeping. And you should never stop that process if you're looking to grow and you're looking to evolve as a person. Those emotions were dammed up like a log jam, and you got them unjammed some way. You got them unjammed, and now they need to come out. And so if you have suppressed a lot of those emotions and you have hidden a lot of that stuff in the back brain and said, I'm not going to deal with it, and yet it comes out, I'll put it this way to you humbly. A lot of that stuff, if we were able to deal with it at the time, you wouldn't be crying over it. You wouldn't be weeping over it. You would have dealt with it. And now at this point, looking back at it, you would have a sigh of relief or happiness, or you probably wouldn't even be dealing with it now. Right? Let me offer you this, Susan, and anyone else who is going through these kind of emotional roller coasters. What you need to do, I'm not a doctor, but you can pretend I'm one. I'm a metaphysician. Right? I'm from elsewhere. I talk to God regularly. All right. So let me offer you this. There's a couple things that you should do. First off, find a pool to swim in. Right? That is the time. Like shower, you can call it your emotional clearing time, emotional clearing day, so that you can feel free. If you're doing a physical activity, you can feel free to release all of that emotion as efficiently as you can, because it can be accepted as part of the job you're doing. If you're digging, like I do, like digging, and I work out a lot of aggression and anger or whatever, or frustration when I'm shoveling into the dirt, and it becomes very meditative. Like one of my mom's tricks is that she would cry while she's doing her laundry, right? Because you're doing the laundry, it's dirty, and even if it comes out of the dryer and it's still warm and you're teared up, you kind of, pat your face with the towel and you put it in with all the rest of it. You don't even know it, So, so that's one of the tricks that, I think mothers tell their daughters, or if they don't, they should, how and where and when to release the tears. It should not be something that you are afraid of, or you have shame over that. That's more and more stuff that you got to work through. When I'm doing these, I have to tell you, when I'm doing these broadcasts and I'm very moved and the spirit finds me and I'm connect with certain people and I know it. When I get images in my head, I know they're not for me. I know. I know when I know it. And I'm emotionally moved sometimes. Like some of the work we do, the stuff that we have done here, holy fuck. I'm moved. And I'm not afraid to show that I am emotionally overwhelmed by this stuff, because you get more overwhelmed by trying to hide it and trying to pretend, oh, I'm sorry. Why? What are you sorry for? Like it's part of the process of clearing. And if you're not here to clear that stuff out and to be at one with it, what are you doing? Right? I mean, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But like if you're talking about that and the ascension and all of that, if you are not in the process actively right now here, you, me, all of us right now, right here, if I am not and you are not in the process of clearing out the last of the stuff, then you got nothing to say. Right? Because no one is getting any elevation until it's all cleaned out and cleared up. All of it, the stuff you didn't want to look at, the stuff you hated, what you said, I'm not like that, I'm not, oh, that's fine, you don't be like, you're not like that, that's fine, but you got to help clean it up, right? You're not like that, okay, fine. Here's a broom, here's a mop, here's a dustpan. You're not like that, you're better than that, you're great, you're wonderful. Yeah, you're not one of those. Guess what? Guess who you're helping? Guess what you're doing? Right? And death ain't helping you. No. If you died as a turd, guess what? Anyway, we don't have to talk about that. I lost my train of thought of where I was at. Thank you all for being here. I'm gonna take a sip of coffee just so I can remember where I may have put my train of thought here. Oh yeah, prayer and meditation. So, one needs to be dedicated to their purpose. And, I've mentioned this before, I'll say this again, that having a mind, half a mind, that can know God, that's in touch with the infinite, is wonderful and fabulous and fucking amazing and all of that. But God says in the Bible, that unless you're helping the least of these, my brethren, I think the phrase is, you don't love me. Right? So, according to Jesus, according to the Bible, I believe that. That's what I know. That's what my truth is. That if we're not helping the disenfranchised, then no one's getting anywhere. You can believe what you want, have all the high pie in the sky ideas, but if you have this idea that you to clean up or none of that, or you can close your eyes, or I don't want to look at whatever I don't want to look at, if that's the view you have, it's going to be a while before you get some elevation, because the rest of us have the cleaning to do. So, if you're standing there doing nothing, but saying it's all good, don't look at the negative, it's only all positive, a lot of this happy horse shit, that it doesn't apply to you somehow, there's all this stuff that's out there. That's fine. It's free will. You don't have to do anything, right? Fine. Be who you are. Do you. That's fine. However, for my crew, me, my standard, that if you haven't put any effort into this, you're not going to be getting anything back. Right? That's how the greater part of the universe works. That if you have not come to the conclusion that you need to be working and you need to be involved in this, fully involved in this, with the densities and your activity, your time, you need to be dedicating time and your physical blood, sweat, and tears to this, or you're not going to be getting out of it what you think you are. Right? If you're not taking the densities of all of this into consideration, that time isn't linear, and no, time isn't linear, right? Time is very linear, right? And that's part of the motherfucker of it, that we need to get out of that we are moving out of that, but not until all of the densities are cleared up and you accept people being late as being a fine and okay thing. I'm patient, right? The linear time matrix ends when you no longer work for a paycheck, you no longer hold people to the clock, you no longer have to make appointments or worry about them, or, in case you do, and the universe gets in front of you and gets in your way, you don't cuss out the universe for making you late, right? Total 3D space to blame someone, accuse someone, you made me late. We're late because of you. Don't you know the time? Like any of that. Complete and total lowest of the low dimensions, where anyone is sweating you over the time, being exact, being on time, right? Making you feel bad that you're not right on time. Or worse, you making yourself feel bad about not being on someone else's time, or you feeling bad that you have hooked up with someone who doesn't let you operate on your time respectfully. You know what I mean? Like, all right, we have a deadline. We're getting away from deadlines. We're getting away from expectations. That's not an important thing. However, other people are for our convenience. We kind of, we're trying to work together. Like, it's a thing, part of it is me and mine and, you and me and us together as a team. But then there's the bigger team, and then there's the greater team over there. Like, all right, you can't make everyone happy, but the clock, you have to remember that the linear time exists as a convenience for all who are concerned. Can I put it that way? Like, linear time doesn't exist except as a convenience so we all can get together, right? I mean, time exists as a convenience in a lot of cases, right? Well, Susan, I was making the point that linear time, the first dimension of linear time is your heartbeat, right? That's everyone's concept of time is based on your heartbeat. So some people are able to tell a quantified second better than another person because your heartbeat happens to be in closer sync to the second paradigm, okay? But everyone, like if you have all things created have a beginning and an end. So there's a time in anything that's created, even God, concept of God, there's a beginning and an end. Gods are born, gods die. There's the prime mover, God as source never dies, but then there's the personality that lives and dies. So there is a time element to stuff, but it's not the same thing as humans with our second and, based on how the second is. Time is very malleable depending on the specifics of the density, right? Time itself is just a unit of things not all happening simultaneously. But there's different measurements, different ways that, time is kind of meted out depending on the, whatever's going around, So that's why time can be a lot of things because it's essentially invisible. It doesn't exist, but it does for things that are created. So it's like time is a really interesting thing. It's like it doesn't exist except for things that have a time limit to them. I mean, it's that simple, and if it's in vibration, it is a regular motion, right? Vibration is, it's a wave, as you will. It's measured by, the clock cycle time, cycles per second. So a wave can exist outside of time, but if you observe it, like that's part of the thing of this too, is the observer, the part of the observer. You can be the observer that just lets it go by, doesn't notice it, doesn't matter, you don't care, right? There's that, that's a thing. The observer has that ability, I don't care, it doesn't mean anything to me. Or nails it down to the second, to the microsecond, to all of that, because time is shorter for that person, right? I think that's a really good way to put it, that time, we've just said this, and it looks like there's a few new people here, that right, so see Brianna Rhodes cross here, well, okay, Rhodes, I guess. One of the things that I had mentioned earlier was, and I'll kind of restate that here, that there is prime source, right? Prime mover, prime source creator, prime mover, doesn't move. You can't move it. It's impersonal. It's a force. Doesn't have any personality. Doesn't have any care. It's a force, right? It's not a personality. Doesn't exist as a he, a she, nothing, right? There's nothing there that you could read, that we could recognize. It's beyond, right? Beyond our form, the form of anything. There has no form, right? God has, in the proper prime mover sense, has no form. However, that's boring, right? Like, what else? You're going to do that for all of eternity? That's fucking boring, right? So you start making, things to help you. Angels to do stuff, and like games that you can play with yourself. Like the ego. You invent the ego so you can hide from yourself. You're God. You can't hide anywhere else, but you can hide from God in the human ego. What a great game, right? Wow. That's why God invented the human ego, so he could hide from himself, right? All right, there you go. So part of this is the differentiation between forms and sources of energy and the ability to communicate with yourself, which you couldn't otherwise do, right? You're formless. You don't have a self. So the creation of a self, of a personality, of a God face, so you could interact, right? There's all these kind of distilling of the purity of consciousness, right? Consciousness doesn't have a form, but there is a density. There is a necessary density that has to happen with the distilling process. So God of the prime mover doesn't have a form, but in order for humans to interact with the formless, the shapeless, the unexistent, in order for humans to be able to experience God, right, there has to be a personality. Otherwise, we couldn't exist. Right? You couldn't exist. We, as humans, couldn't exist without a principle of the self and differentiation of materials and sacred geometry and chemicals and all of this stuff. That there is the mental part of God existing or not existing, or does it, that the majority of people who question the existence of God are not able to connect with the feeling element or the feeling energy of the body itself. They're literally living in a head in a jar. I don't know a better way to put it, but they've disconnected the limbic system. They've disconnected the feelings from the body. And so in this unbalanced state, it's very easy to just go, send off into never land and totally forget the body and leave the earth a waste product, right? I don't know. I don't care. I don't have to live with the plastic. I don't have to live with the waste. Send it over to the next guy. Shoot it out to the moon. I don't know. Why are you asking me for? You deal with it, right? That's part of what that structure is of forgetting God, the divinity of the body, because our bodies are part of the earth. Our bodies are made up of the same stuff of the earth. And it's very easy for the head on a jar, the empty head, to forget that, the earth supplies us with the stuff we need to live, right? Clean water, clean food. You can't poison the water without it poisoning you. I mean, there's some very basic realities that seem lost here somewhere. How are you not able to feel that dirty water is going to make you sick? Is it because you don't have feelings? Is it because you're not processing clean water? Where are you getting your clean water from? Or you do not need clean water? Like, there's all these very real things that come down when you look at the the technology and all the the ideas of science and all the mental like, oh wow, all the technology. Well, who's losing out on this, right? And so that's part of one of the things about this as well, is that people are trying to make a physical ascension through the technology and shortchange the process. Like, that's a really important thing to realize, and that's part of one of the things that I talk about in the myth section of the Schumann resonances, is how people are holding on to these myths that's rooted in the technology, that they believe the technology itself, EMF, is going to magically save them. Right? So this is one of those things that I need to talk about with you, with the group, is that there isn't anything automatic. You are not ascending out of the body. Right? This is very important. That mystical 5D ascension, you're taking your body with you. I just want you to know that, right? The resonance of the body, it's not, you have a new form, it will be changed, it'll be transmogrified, it's changed, but your spirit, that's what this human experience is the unification of those two hemispheres in your body that otherwise would not be able to match up because they're diametrically opposed. No, Elizabeth, because the Schumann resonances are intact. They're locked into place. They're not going anywhere, right? You're not breaking them. The earth ain't breaking them. They're locked in place for a reason. And the lowest one resonates at fear. They're like fishing. How do I say this? They're locked intact at that range between 8 to 7.3, give or take. They're locked in place to pull, like I'm trying to give an analogy, to pull those emotions from you, right? Fear. What's another one? Fear, guilt, the lowest of the frequencies, right? That's what they're there for, to hold those intact, to give them to the earth, to give them to the planet, right? So there's other metrics of how well people's there's other metrics that you can go by, that people can go by, for how well we collectively are connecting with one another than the Schumann resonances. Okay, the Schumann resonances are radio waves. They're there to hold these low frequencies intact, or they may not have been there originally, but that's what they're doing now. Put it that way. That's a question I do not have the answer to. Theoretically, yeah, someone could. I can't. I'm not sure how you'd measure that. And at that point, it's not. It's information on a hard drive is held by light. It's an electric impulse. Okay, so the data on your hard drive is an electric impulse. It's either it's either an on or an off, basically. So it's a microvolt or whatever it is. You've added an electric charge to it. This is not measured in weight. This is measured in either Gauss or in joules. I'm trying to think what the other one is. Maybe Tesla. I don't know about weight, but I do know you've added Gauss to it. Yes. Let me remind you, while we're on this topic, this, first off, how do I say this? First off, there is a good chance that no group meditation has ever made it onto a Schumann resonance graph. Okay, first and foremost, I'm going to make that claim that in my experience, as the technical guy here that knows how the shit works, there is no group meditation that's ever appeared on the Schumann resonances. I'm pretty sure there's not any credible studies on that. Where people talk about that on they get proof the Schumann resonance that it was before a major event like 9/11, September 11th of 2001. People have said there's studies on that. No one's proven it. No one's shown it to me, but okay. And what I love to remind people, because I was alive then, I was around, I remember that, it was like a Tuesday. And when I saw the buildings drop, the World Trade Centers drop, it was like the buildings were imploded by professional demolition. Okay? I was pretty sure that a plane wouldn't cause that, even if it did heat up. Heat rises. So, I mean, there's a lot of, me and just my building experience, I knew there was a lot of craziness to this. And then later on, when they did a lot of hush-hush and they, the funny business around it, you can see there was a big cover-up to this. And there's big, huge, crazy business to this. All right. So the evidence certainly was there that something, that it was not the planes or the jet fuel that did it. Okay. You don't hit a building like that and then it implodes. It just dropped. That's professional. All right. So on 9/11, 3 buildings were imploded that day. They used some crazy thermite, some high-tech shit to get that to happen like that. Like, just not randomly, like it all just dropped right there. The amount of engineering, the magnitude of engineering that went in to make that happen was beyond the scale of what I could imagine. So without getting too much more into it than this, okay, the specifics about it, that for every event, a world event that you say happened, okay, a huge major catastrophe that happened, at some point on, what I'm saying is, yes, thermite, thank you, Ricky. What I'm saying is, all right, what I'm saying is that either you can believe that there was planes that were involved and they got tied up, they got wrapped up in all that as well, or it was just the thermite and the other stuff that did it. There's a lot of directed energy weapon. It's a type of directed energy weapon, yes, but not the lasers that are doing it different now. All right, listen. The point of the details is not the point of this, okay? What I'm saying is that whether it's directed energy, whether it's thermite, or whether it's standard demolition, or a plane fucking blew up and then blew up the building, right? This is a major event that is likely to show up on a Schumann because it picks up earthquakes and seismic activity. So, yes, I'm saying it's controlled demolition. If you are of the orthodox view that it was the planes that did that and it caused the buildings to drop, if you're of that, that's fine. We're not arguing with that. The fucking building dropped. 2. And then another one was imploded, the building 7. You can't drop a building like that and not cause something on the Richter scale. Okay? This is what's really, really, really super important. The details of this are not important, right? Because for what we're saying here, it does not matter if the building was controlled demolition or if the plane magically did it. It doesn't matter, right? The building fell in a controlled fashion. Okay? Right? So regardless of the detail, we're not getting into all the nitpicky stuff or the details of the politics of all of that, right? It was dirty, shady business. We don't need to go into why. I'm saying that. I'm giving the 9/11 thing as an example because I was around and I was alive then, okay? And I remember at that point what was happening. So what I'm saying is there is no place that you can go on the Schumann, okay, on the Schumann, where you say this huge event happened, and look, that's what's caused, what caused the we are not going to be talking about the technical details of what caused the explosion because neither one of those matters, right? Hopefully you're listening to what I'm saying here. Regardless of the details of what it was, whether it was controlled demolition or if it's the myth, the orthodox myth that it was the planes that did it, it doesn't matter, right? Just wrap your heads around this, please. Whatever the details of it was, it doesn't matter because the same point I'm saying goes to either of those equally. The truth or the lie doesn't matter. It's exactly the same. The buildings fell, okay? I think we all can agree that 2 buildings fell that day, okay? Right? There you go. We are not going to be talking more about the details of this, or I will put people on pause for a little while, because I've already said conclusively that the details don't matter, right? The fact that 2 buildings were knocked down and made a bump on the Richter scale is what is important. What caused the whys and wherefores that caused the buildings to drop are not ever going to be known, right? There is no truth in this. There is only... Right, there we go. Exactly. That's what's important. The fact that 2 buildings were able to create seismic activity. Right? It's that simple. 2 big buildings created seismic activity. So a reasonable person, could not make the claim that, it's like our collective consciousness is what made that blip on the Schumann because of some big event, when you're overlooking the big event itself being the more likely cause of the blip. Right? This is one of those things about this, about the myth and about the tale and the tall tale and everything that has to be recognized and realized, is that the Schumann resonances, or the meters, the graphs of the Schumann resonances, are only picking up a very narrow band of activity. and they're not picking up your consciousness. They're not picking up, the collective consciousness vibe as people are wanting to believe. They do other things. Schumann resonances do other things, but they're not at the place of the Schumann resonances. The antennas don't pick up the thoughts of people. Like, that's all in your head, right? The timeline shift, that's in your head. The part where a lot of the stuff and of the belief in the Schumannism, that you can't prove or validate in some way, it's in the head, right? It's all in the infinite and the imagination. That's fine, right? But that you can think of it in your head doesn't validate that it is a real actual thing, right? And so if it doesn't matter that you're it's an illusion, it doesn't matter if you got the right, whatever, it's, people believe what they believe, Right. So this idea of 5D, right? What is it? We've been through here. What dimension? What are we? Right? When people talk and use the phrase 5D, what does that actually mean? Ask them. Right? Are you talking about fifth dimension, fifth density? Right? Are you talking about length, height, width, nonlinear time, and then what? What is it after that? White light? Like, seriously? Are you people like? Do you have? Like, you really think this? Is this really a thing? Right? Just you can't imagine anything else after nonlinear time? So, 5D gamma energies? No. The Schumann antennas are not picking up gamma, right? The Schumann antenna, I realize people want it to be what they want it to be, right? I realize people want it to be. There's this belief, like the non-secured desire in someone's heart that they want it to be that. Right? Because if you can show that on the Schumann chart, it's real, right? Who else can believe that, right? You're a bunch of, it's a circle jerk. That's what that is, right? The 5D circle jerk. Do you know what it is? I don't know. No, but just keep doing that. It feels good, right? That's what that is, right? So you can hold on to whatever view you want. The white light is 5D energy. I don't know what that means, what that's supposed to mean, but I don't know what that means. They don't know what that means. They can't tell you. It's just a phrase. It's a buzz phrase. The white bursts are 5D energy. I feel this. I feel that. When it comes in, it's all happy horse shit. The circle jerk. 5D ascension age circle jerk. Okay. So I can give you what that white means, the mode. I can explain it. Yes, the white spikes are traditionally, they're A1, they're amplitude 1, all right? But what does that mean? All right? I mean, even then, you say, Bradley, you're absolutely right, you're correct, you say that, but then, all right, what does that mean? The white, A1 mode. It's just easier for people to make stuff up and believe it's 5D gamma ascension energy than actually to look into what it is, quite honestly. It's just, it's not that it's true, it's not correct, you can't prove it, you can't verify it, there isn't anywhere where you can go to establish that. Factually speaking, the Schumann antennas aren't picking up gamma, they're not picking up X-ray, they're at the lowest of the fucking low, right? The 30 to 45 hertz, right? These are million-kilometer wavelengths that the Schumann picks up. 1,000-kilometer wavelengths that it picks up. The lowest. Gamma is in millimeter wavelength, right? That's gamma. Have you ever... Is there anyone here familiar with terrestrial radio, with AM radio, with finding the channel, like ham radio, finding a station on a dial? Right? Have you ever tried to find a station on a dial? You're talking about in like either kilometers or the AM amplitude modulation in kilohertz or in megahertz. If you change the dial just a little bit off of that, you've lost the signal, right? Going from 91 to 93, you're not getting 91 anymore, okay? That's how that works. That's how that works, right? 90 like I said, 93, or if you're trying to get 91, and you move it over to 93, you're not going to be picking up 91, 99.1, okay? It's the same thing with the Schumann resonances, right? If your gamma energy is way, 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 way beyond the range of the Schumann resonances, of what the Schumann resonances can do, okay? There is a limited range that the antennas can pick up, and it's not picking up gamma radiation. Okay, that we should know that for the night. Yeah. All right. I think I'm done for the night. I'm gonna play music and then we can be done. We can get out of here. All right. What is this? Oh, it seems like it. All right. So, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate everyone coming out and hanging out. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I do this in addition to a full-time job. I move concrete, my other job. I get beat up. I'm kind of really, for myself, I'm done with this. And hopefully my time here is not that much longer that I have to endure this. But anyway. Y'all have a good rest of your night. I appreciate everyone for being here. Thank you very much. And I will see you soon. Thank you all for coming. Where am I? Thank you all for coming. Much love.
Party people jump. feeling that house music beat. Feel it properly. People of the world, do it properly. Wherever you are, you're a superstar. House music is the thing that brings us together as one. So together, we're gonna do this thing properly. Let's have some fun. Party people, jump, 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 jump. Do it properly. Let's have some fun. Do it. Do it properly. If you're feeling the beat over there, do it. Put your hands up in the air.